Well, what about in your families? Have any of you been rejected by your families because of it?
Certainly not me, because I grew up in a family that wasn't overtly religious at all. So,
Robert, have you had a problem, family problem?
Yeah, but it's probably my fault. To tell you the truth, because I just won't let lying dogs, what is it, sleep?
Sleeping dogs lie.
Sleeping dogs lie, right? Because I just... Them having the belief that this is good, in turn is saying that I am bad. If this is what they say is...
Well, have they thrown you out of the home and disinherited you, or what?
No,
how far does this go?
Basically said, shut up. Stop talking about
it.
To
yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although it's kind of interesting, my mother doesn't like me to talk about it. She's very Catholic, very involved in her church. She teaches CCD. My dad, growing up, I didn't even realize he believed in God, really. I mean, he was more about skydiving and shooting guns. And then once I said I'm an atheist, my dad is the one that tried to talk God
convince
into
you
me.
otherwise. Well, have they stopped loving you?
No, certainly
because
not.
There are people who know so little about non-believers that they think you're going to be an outcast, your family's not going to want you, and that does happen. Some young people get thrown out of the home if they don't follow the family religion, and there are of course people who think that if you announce it and you're in a profession, if you're a doctor, a lawyer, or something, that it could be detrimental to your career. I found, because I never talked about it through most of my life, but I found after the Times-Picayune told my story that two of my former employers in two different enterprises called me to say, I didn't know that, but you ought to know I'm the same as you. I could have told them, but I didn't know I could have. So what I'm saying is that if there are some folks out there who are a little bit concerned about the repercussions of acknowledging their non-belief, you might put out some feelers and find out that there's more acceptance there than you thought that there would be. Okay.
I can say that in moving into a town in Tennessee, that we used to joke that one of the first things you were asked is what church you belong to. And so there are areas or particular towns that it's still a very prevalent way of deciding which side you're on, or if you're even better if you're a member of their group. And so that still goes on. I think that's part of, I think religion is used for that in the United States, to make someone feel accepted or to make you realize you don't really belong.
And I think a lot of business connections and deals are made by people going to the same church or the same synagogue. I think there's a cohesion there, and I don't know whether it's just you're more inclined to trust each other or you just want to support each other, but there are some advantages there. Not to say that you can't make it otherwise. All right, well, what else would you all like to throw in so that the people who don't know that much about us could, be a little more familiar with the kind of lives that we're able to live, and whether we feel that we've sacrificed something by becoming secular?
Well, I think a lot of people, if you tell them you're an atheist, they figure that you just don't have any rules and that anything goes. But if they look into humanism, they can see that humanism has a set of ideals and principles, and they're listed, they're enumerated in how you should live your life in a moral way, but it's just strictly a secular way. There's no spiritualism involved in it, and there's no reward in heaven involved in it. It's just you're going to have a better life here on earth if you live by humanist principles.
And incidentally, the various organizations we belong to, one of them being the American Humanist Association and the Council for Secular Humanism, they have the affirmations of humanism, and they spell out, what we do hold to be truths, none of which depend upon the supernatural, all of which indicate that it is our intention to live good lives, considerate of other people, and considerate of ourselves, that what's more important than that we should have fulfilled lives. And so let me just say to the people who are watching our show that we'd be more than happy to send you some literature on secular humanism, which most people, when I mention those words, say, well, what is that? If you call the telephone number you'll see at the end of this show, we'd be happy to send you some materials at no cost to you, and you might find that you've been a humanist all along and just didn't know it. But I think for many of us, the term secular humanism is fairly new to us. I mean, we knew that we were non-religious, but we didn't know what secular humanism was. I'll be happy to say that Denis, when the organizations first started here in New Orleans, Denis was one of the original members, and we still have, I think, all of those original members because they have found advantages to being able to meet regularly with like-minded people, and we do have interesting events, and we have our meetings with speakers who are of interest to us, and we have social events from time to time, and we sponsor some movies occasionally, and so it may not be as fulfilling as some religious people find their churches to be, because we don't have the same kinds of ceremonies and beautifully emotional experiences of singing the hymns and hearing the organs playing, but we do have something in common, and what we have in common is our humanity, and I think that's important that people know that is a part of who we are. We are humanists, and you will find when you get more information about us that it's not at all scary, and it's not at all in opposition to the kind of lives you may prefer to live. It just may give you the chance to acknowledge that perhaps there is no supernatural being, and maybe this is the only life you're going to have, and so that being the case, live it fully. You don't sacrifice it for some promised afterlife. Live this life to get the most you can from it, and to, in doing so, help others to also live full and fulfilling lives. I want to thank our members of NOSHA who were here today, Robert, Charlotte, and Denis. We have to do this again sometime, and I do want to invite you folks to get to know us better.